Hello everybody and welcome to another episode here on the channel. Today we're gonna start our journey through the wizarding world of Harry Potter. So I recommend you to grab your brooms, hop on, and if you're afraid of heights, you can always take the night bus. Okay, so since I started this channel, I've been wanting to make a playlist of videos about Harry Potter. I am a Potterhead. I love this series. I'm actually wearing the appropriate colors for a Harry Potter video. Gryffindor pride, always. I started a reread on the series in November. I read Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and I enjoyed it a lot. I finished the Chamber of Secrets a couple days ago. I started with The Prisoner of Azkaban. So I'm gonna be making a playlist of videos gushing about the series, about the books, and also pointing out some things that I didn't pick up when I was a teenager and a child. There's some things, inconsistencies, some stuff that doesn't really make sense, and I just find really funny. So in no way I am diminishing the series. This is just for fun. I love this series above everything else. I couldn't talk bad about it even if I tried to. So that being said, let's start. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. This is the first book in the series, obviously, and the one that I read the least. So there were a bunch of things that I saw in this book that I didn't remember quite well, and they amazed me a lot. The last time that I read this book particularly, it must be like 10 or so years ago. The first thing that I want to talk about is world building, because this entire book is focused on building this world that we all grew up in and that we all came to love. And I adored coming back to this place. It's incredible how the plot is so secondary in this entry in comparison with all the time that J.K. Rowling spent setting us up into this world, and Hogwarts in particular. So much that it can even be seen on page count. It's not until page 70 something that Hagrid tells Harry that he is a wizard, and just then we get a little glimpse of the wizarding world, which is Diagon Alley. I adored. I loved going back to that place, seeing Harry get his first wand, seeing him go to Gringotts and see these horrible goblins, getting his first owl, his first ropes, where he meets Draco Malfoy and he absolutely dislikes him from the beginning because this kid is a brat. And then it wasn't until page 100 that we actually get to Hogwarts. We spent a third of the book just building up Harry's life, Harry's horrible life with the Dursleys, which, by the way, I didn't remember how horrible. I mean, yeah, I remember that they were horrible people. That's out of the question, but I didn't remember how cruel they actually were to Harry. I mean, the amount of abuse he endured in this house is just terrible. What? He was just a kid and they just threatened him to feed him just once a week if he didn't behave well, or if he said like something wrong. Or when they go to the zoo, they threaten him. Freaking Vernon Dursley, I hate him so much. Like, with leaving him inside the car for the whole day without even a meal. Oh my God. Anyway, going back to topic. We get to Hogwarts finally in the second third of the book. And it's so awesome to see Hogwarts gates open for us, for Harry, for the first time. I mean, seeing the sorting ceremony, meeting the ghost, these moving stairs, these very much alive paintings that interact with people. I mean, this world is magical to its very core, and I just fell in love with it all over again. And actually, we spend most of the book just hanging out with the characters in daily life. I mean, we just see them hanging out, meeting new people, making friends, going to class, we meet the professors. We see Quidditch for the first time, which is awesome. We see them learning about the house points and the system about it. And now that I think of it, this is the only book where the house cup actually matters. Well, in book 2, we can see a glimpse about it, but in this book, it is so important. Actually, people look down to Harry because he loses so many Gryffindor points and stuff. So I didn't remember that quite well. The plot is there. The kids are trying to solve this mystery, but it's not the main focus of this story. Actually, I was really surprised when I saw that it wasn't until the second to last chapter of the book that the kids actually went to look for the stone. Even the subplots, I mean, all the thing with Hagrid and his dragon is just to show us, like, hey, we have also dragons here. And then the whole thing with the detention, which I'm gonna talk about in the last part of the book because it's just so funny. But it's to show us the Forbidden Forest and show us that there are a lot of dangers there. They have centaurs, they have unicorns. It's all wrapped up in this beautiful package of whimsy, magic, and wonder that just warms my heart so much because it's like coming back home to this place where I've always wanted to live in. And then we meet the characters. I'm gonna talk about the Golden Trio in the end. So I'm gonna start with another characters. For instance, Dumbledore. I mean, we meet this old, wise, really powerful and eccentric wizard. I mean, I am not a Dumbledore fan, but it's because like how he is portrayed in the end. It's not because he's not a good character, it's just I'm really mad at him because of so many things he made. But in this book, I love him. He's this old mentor, really wise. There's this beautiful scene in the Mirror of Erised he shares with Harry. We learn a little bit that Dumbledore has a lot of secrets. Harry sensed that he's not telling him the truth about his desires. And then we've got the scene in the hospital wing, which is beautiful. And we see the first glimpse of the knowledge that Dumbledore actually has on Harry's and Voldemort connection. And it is so interesting to see in the first book. I didn't expect it, that I didn't remember what he told him. I just remember he told him about Lily's love sacrifice, that Snape was actually protecting him, not trying to hurt him. But I didn't remember that he gave us a little Easter egg of what is going to happen later in the series. And then we've got this really funny scene in the end of the book, which we all fans love and laugh about because Dumbledore is just being Dumbledore. So we enter the Great Hall and everything is in Slytherin colors. Everything else is really bummed because the Slytherin house won the house cup once again. And Dumbledore says like, yeah, Slytherin won, but I'm gonna be giving extra points for recent events. And all right, these kids actually deserve the points they get. They put their lives in danger, but he doesn't just like gives them enough points to beat Slytherin in the house cup. They actually gave them the exact amount of points to beat Slytherin. And that's just, he just wanted Gryffindor to win. Like, then we've got Hagrid. He's hilarious, he's wonderful, he's the sweetest man on earth. And in this book, he's just like trying to protect the kid so much, but he messes up. And I just can't help to love him. Then we have Snape. He's a terrible, terrible person. He's a horrible professor. He bullies his students that don't belong to Slytherin. He hates Harry so much for not apparent reason. The way he treats Neville is just horrible. But we also see this little thing that tells us that although he's terrible and there's no justification for that, he's not entirely evil because he's trying to protect Harry, which shouldn't be like much of a praise because, I mean, he's a professor, he's a teacher, he should do that for the students. But whatever. And then we get to the Golden Trio. And I just love them so much. Hermione, for instance, like, I love her, but I didn't remember how annoying she was in the first part of the book. So bossy, correcting everyone all the time, like really uptight, following the rules and talking down to everyone except Neville, I think. But I also know that it's because, well, it's also part of her personality, but it's also because of her insecurities. She's super eager to prove herself worthy of belonging to this world. She's a Muggle-born, so she feels so behind everyone else in the knowledge they have of the wizarding world that she just wants to keep up and she wants to be the best and she wants to prove herself. But what really caught my attention is how later in the books she becomes friends with the boys. I mean, it's not until page 180 in the book. I mean, I didn't remember it to be so late. I really thought it was sooner. Then we have Ron Weasley. And oh my God, this character is so underrated, especially in the movies. In this reread, I have come to the conclusion that the movies just ruined Ron's character. Ron is so humble, is so loyal and so brave. We see early on in the train his insecurities. He has like 3 really successful brothers, Charlie, Bill, and Percy. And he also has Fred and George, which are not like really successful in the traditional way, but they are so funny that they just stand up from the crowd. And Ron is really insecure. He wants to live up to the expectation of his family. He's really afraid of not being in Gryffindor and letting his parents down. He has always lived in the shadow of his brothers, and we see that. And even with that insecurity, he's just so loving, and he's hilarious too. I mean, I've come to appreciate his character so much more in this reread. And Harry, our main character, he is the eyes from where we get to know this world. His amazement about this place is so palpable. His joy of discovering a world where he actually belongs in after a whole life of abuse and loneliness. It's, oh my God, like there's this scene when it's Christmas and God, his reaction to the knowledge that he actually received Christmas gifts is so beautiful and so heartbreaking. But the most important thing, it's not the individual characters of the Golden Trio, but the friendship they forge. It's so strong and so beautiful. It's really awesome how they come to love each other so much. Like, so much that they can't even fathom the thought of letting Harry go alone in his quest for the stone. The love, the loyalty when Ron sacrifices himself in the chess game, which, by the way, in the books is much more brutal than in the movies. Then Hermione using her logic in the potions and in the devil's snare, and she's saying Harry is such a great wizard because he is so loving and so brave. I just love their dynamic and how this is the foundation of one of the most amazing friendships that I've ever seen on fiction. Well, there's not so much we can say about Baldy in this book because he doesn't show up until the very last pages, but his mere presence just sets us up for like the great threat that he's gonna become later in the series. I think the lack of darkness in this book is absolutely intentional. Rowling tells us, okay, this is the world. Explore it. Love it. But be aware because this guy is gonna come around sooner or later and it's not gonna be pretty. I loved rereading this book. It's just so full of whimsy, so full of wonder, and although in the later books it's still a magical place, it's so much darker and it's so much more mature. And here we're still kids and we're just getting to know this magical world and we get to have fun and things aren't so dangerous, things aren't so serious yet. I love it. Now in this section, we're gonna point out some things that don't really make sense. Like some inconsistencies, some plot holes, and just for fun, I just want to laugh about it because when I was reading and I like picked up these little things, I just laughed so much. In no way it took out my enjoyment of the book. First is this weird scene where Hagrid and Harry meet Quirrell in the leaky cauldron. And in the book, literally says that Quirrell grabs Harry's hand to shake it. And we all know that Quirrell has Baldy in the back of his head. And Baldy cannot touch Harry because of Lily's sacrifice. So I don't know what the explanation is. Maybe Quirrell wasn't possessed by Voldemort until later. But it doesn't really make sense because the vault where Hagrid and Harry went to pick up the stone to take it to Hogwarts because Hogwarts is the safest place in the world was robbed the very same day. So that wouldn't work. Or maybe he was able to touch him because then he wasn't intending to actually hurt him. I don't know. It's just, if you have an explanation for it, please let me know in the comment section. And there's just this funny thing that in the feast, Dumbledore says explicitly that it's really forbidden to go to the third floor corridor for anyone who doesn't wish to die a really painful death. But when the kids, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, are escaping from Filch and they go like through the door to Fluffy, Hermione just opens the door with a freaking Alohomora. You would think that if the professor actually wanted to guard this place, they would use a more complex locking spell, I guess. Then we've got the detention in the Forbidden Forest. And this doesn't make sense at all. You're punishing the kids because they're out of bed late at night by making them go late at night to this forest, the Forbidden Forest, that is like one of the most dangerous places in Hogwarts, with Hagrid, knowing that there's this dark creature that's killing unicorns. I mean, come on, isn't Hogwarts the safest place in the world? And last but not least, and this is a really weird thing, because I discovered this when I was reading the last chapter where Harry was confronting Quirrell in the Mirror of Erised. And it's that Harry actually made possible for Voldemort to get the stone. Because if he didn't go looking for the stone, then Quirrell wouldn't have gotten it, because you had to want the stone but not to use it to be able for it to appear in your pocket. If Harry hadn't been there, it was impossible for Quirrell to get the stone. The mere presence of Harry there made everything more dangerous than it already was. And I just find this so funny and so curious. I mean, I don't understand. So this was my GUSH review and discussion of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. It didn't have much of a structure because I just wanted to talk about how much I love this series. But let me know in the comment section what you thought about this video. I hope you liked it. I had so much fun filming it. And yeah, I would love to chat with you guys about Harry Potter if you have more nitpicks that I didn't see, because I had so much fun discovering these sort of things. And don't forget to give me a thumbs up, ring the bell, and click on the subscribe button if you want to see more content in the future. Thank you guys, and see you soon.